So I'd like to now take the opportunity to present the Peter Graham Cohuna Award. This is just what it's all about. The Peter Graham Cohuna Award was established a number of years ago in honour of Dr. Peter Graham from Cohuna in Victoria. The award is given to a rural doctor who has provided outstanding advocacy and medical service to their community to ensure the highest quality of generalist services, including procedural praxis, is available and accessible to the members of the people in their town. This is probably the highest award that we can give, I believe, in the profession of medicine, in recognition of somebody who makes a contribution and a commitment to their community through both service, medical service and advocacy. And it's with great pleasure that I announce that the winner of the Peter Graham Cohuna Award, which I'm hoping I'm going to make this person have to stop their dinner halfway through, is Dr. Paul Mara.
Thank you very much. It's indeed an honour. It's been a quiet few weeks in Gundagai. We've lost a couple of patients, but the Niagara Cafe seems to be improving after Denise got her knee replacement. I heard that Tony had a horse that was worth $120,000 and he was due to sell it, and the day before he was due to sell it, the horse bolted and scratched his leg and got an infection and died. And so I was sitting in the cafe with Tony and he was commiserating about this, and I said, "How do you feel about it?" And he said, "I'm pretty depressed, I think I'll kill myself." And I said, "Well, you better buy me another milkshake and we'll have a talk about it." I've coveted this award for a number of years. Ever since Sheila Cronin got it in 2008. The next year I thought it was probably going to be my turn. I don't know what made me think that. But I wrote out a speech on these 6x4 cards. There was 40 of them. I had them stuffed in my pocket, the coats. And then they came through all these awards and they announced everybody else, and then they announced Peter Riesbreath as a winner. And I was sitting at the table with Peter and he looked genuinely surprised, and I thought, geez, you really do deserve this award, Pete. I was disappointed for a couple of days, and the speech was really going to talk about the history of rural generalism and what it meant for our communities and the people that I'd met and those inspirational people and the starting of the Rural Doctors Association, and how Neil Blewett reduced the rebates for after hours care, and we went to Bruce Shepherd and we said, "What are you going to do about it?" And Bruce said, "Well, what are you guys going to do about it?" And ever since then I've recognised that if you want a solution to a problem, you've got to look in a mirror. So we moved on and had the Rural Doctors Conference, and two guys from Queensland came down that. One was a big tall guy, a little bit obese, big bushy beard with a big hat, and the other was a little guy who was a bit more hyperactive. He was bouncing around like a cattle dog. And Col Owen and Bruce Chater, they started it all up here in Queensland. So I was going to talk about all these inspirational people, and really I have to write the book to talk about them all now. I mean, the Rural Doctors Association started off with two overseas trained doctors, Jeff Cutter and Chris Bowman in New South Wales, in the dispute. People don't realise what we actually went through in those days. People don't realise probably now what people in Akron went through to get Akron up. There's been a lot of hard yards and a lot of work that's been put into this, and all of those people and all of you actually deserve this award. Anyway, I didn't get it in 2009. 2010, Lindsay Sheriff got it. Then in 2011, we were sitting at the table with Les Woolard, and I thought, maybe I'm going to get it this year. I just had this sort of feeling, 2011. And, I really, as I say, I coveted this award, and I'd put in a lot of work for New South Wales. And I had the speech prepared. I typed it up on the computer and it was on an A4 sheet of paper. And I was going to talk about rural communities and how the award really was about rural communities. I mean, it's Peter Graham Cohuna Award. And, you know, in later years, this sort of love of rural communities was what drove me for about 4 years as president of the Rural Doctors Association to try and get rid of the ASGCRA. Because it wasn't about money for the doctors necessarily. It was about the fact that the ASGCRA stripped the identity away from small rural towns. You know, put them in a blancmange with all these sort of regional centres. You know, and when I left the presidency, you know, I think we moved it along a fair bit. We'd educated Fiona Nash and then previous presidents of the Rural Doctors Association, Sheila and then Ian Kammerman, in association with Jenny Johnson. I mean, they rammed it home and we got that RMA15, which was, you know, a fantastic effort, and that was a wonderful thing to do. But it was really the second part of the speech, my second speech, was going to be about those rural communities. But they announced Les Woolard from Moree, and I mean, you know, what can you say about that? I mean, Les has been in Moree for over 35 years. You know, he's done everything that can be done. He's been abrasive as a representative of rural doctors, and he's, you know, he was the president in New South Wales for over 3 years, and he really deserved that award. And then the next year, I wasn't that confident the next year. You know, Bruce Chater got the award. He gave it on a video and I thought that was fantastic. But, you know, about this time, Peter Reesbooth and Noel Maxwell actually tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Do you want to be the president of the RDAA?" And I said, "Well, you know, I'm getting a bit old in the tooth on that." And they said, "No, we think you've still got something to contribute," and which meant they couldn't find anybody else, I think. So I said, "OK, I'll be president." And I thought, well, maybe being president at one of these meetings opens up the opportunity, you know, to get this award. I thought maybe this is a sign that it was going to happen. So I prepared the speech on the back of an envelope. I wasn't going to be disappointed for weeks like last time if I didn't get it. But I was going to talk about rural doctors and their families and the role that families played. And in spite of what Virginia said to me tonight, she said, "Don't you say anything about me." I mean, I met Virginia on my first day at medical school. You haven't heard the story yet. I was 20 minutes late to my first ever lecture in medical school. I creeped in the back of the hall and sat down, and I said to this girl beside me, "Have I missed anything?" And she gave me 5 pages of beautifully handwritten notes, and I said, "I'm onto a good thing here." It took her a while to work that out herself, but we gradually got there. You know, Virginia has really been the rock on which our whole sort of... I couldn't have done anything without her in the rural doctors movement. To the extent that I've been able to achieve anything, it's been due to her. Now, she's had to put up with a lot. She's had to be a doctor, a mother. She's had to look after the cows, all the while I'm away having meetings and, you know, cups of tea and coffee and sips of wine with the politicians and things. But she's held the fort at home. I remember when we were going to go to New Zealand. I mean, Virginia's idea of rural practice was Canberra, initially. We were going to go to New Zealand so I could do anaesthetics. Virginia was 38 weeks pregnant. I had to go to New Zealand a couple of weeks earlier to do my obstetrics exams. I met her at the plane after having written the letter that said that she was 32 weeks pregnant so she could travel on the plane. I made sure she took a towel with her and a clamp. She came down the stairs and had our second child in New Zealand, so whoever wins the World Cup, he's going to be happy. And we spent one of the best years of our lives doing training in New Zealand. It was a fantastic experience, and I'm going to write about it in my memoirs. But, you know, I was going to talk about family. I was going to talk about the importance of family to rural doctors and the fact that it's really the families that help sustain those people doing the work. And I was going to thank the families. But I didn't get it that year either. John Menzies got it. another well-reserved recipient. And I was president of the Rural Doctors Association for 2 years. And I worked very, very hard during those 2 years because I believe if you take up a position, you've got to ram it through. And so at the end of those 2 years, I thought, this is going to be my swan song. I'm out of here after this. I've done all this time. Maybe this will be my year. So I didn't write down any speeches. But I went to Linda Huff and I said, Linda, how's the conference going? And she said, oh, it's going really well. I said, okay. We got all the speakers. She said, oh yeah, we got good speakers, and what's the program like, Linda? She said, oh, it's a really good program this year. We got lots of delegates. Oh yeah, we got lots of delegates. What about the nominations for the awards? She said, yeah, we got all the nominations for the awards. And I said, who's getting the awards? And she said, I can't tell you that. I said, oh. So I go away thinking about this, and if she's not going to tell me the nominations for the award, is this some sort of a sign that, So I went in there, and of course I didn't get it that year either, Stephen Morris did. But I did get a really great certificate, and I got a sailor's hat, and I got an hour and a half in a simulator for an A380, and it was a fantastic experience. Yeah. So, where does all this come around to? I mean, I've been in this game now for about 34 years, and the wheels are just rotating around and things are coming back. One of the hard yards things that we had to do, and I think one of the defining moments for the future generation of rural doctors is going to be this issue of the training program and where that's going. We fought very, very hard with David Mildenhall and a lot of the other people that are here tonight to get a decentralised college training program. And we won on that one, and it was a big risk from the politician Michael Wooldridge at that time. It almost sent the College of GPs broke, which certainly wasn't within our bailiwick, but now we've gone back to centralised models, and that raises issues that I think are really of concern. I think coupled with the workforce, we are at a real risk of the training program being just a feeder mechanism for economic models of practice rather than for the sort of practice that we want to practice in rural areas. I think the other issue that's going to be defining is how we approach the Medicare debates at the present time. We have to move away from compensating for poor rebates with an activity-based sort of overload. This is going to be a real challenge for the future, and how we actually structure payments for comprehensive care is going to make a big difference and a big challenge for people in the bush. And I guess the third area, which is going to be a defining moment, is how we approach the debate over generalism versus super specialisation. It doesn't just apply to the bush, but really the way in which we approach our healthcare and the affordability of it and the sustainability in the future are going to be based on those three areas. So I'd leave you to think about that, because that's the challenges for the future there. Finally, I'd like to have a brief recognition of people that have helped me through my career as a rural politician. In particular, I'd like to applaud Jenny Johnson for the work that she's done, the advice that she's given us, and the solidity that she's provided throughout. Jenny makes Bryony Fisher look like a wimp. I've seen her work with the politicians, and she can be so nice when she's shoving them in the back. But I think it's just wonderful. I think with your team, with Linda and Patrick and Inika and Anita, we've got a great thing there. You get more value for money out of this mob than any other medical organisation, and I think they should be applauded. My role in ACRIM has been a bit more limited, but what about the constancy that's applied with ACRIM? I mean, Marita and your team, you keep coming back to these conferences every year after year. You're fantastic and wonderful people, and really it was a baby that needed a lot of resuscitation in the early days, and now it's come through. It's fantastic. It reminds me of the 18-year-old that met me in the street at Tumut and said, "Do you remember me?" And I said, "Oh, I don't really remember you." She said, "I was the one that you delivered on, the cold winter's night," and I remembered it straight away. I had to drive to Tumut, it was raining. I went around the corner on the road to Tumut, there was this big lot of hay that had washed across the road. I slammed the car into the load of hay. I got out in the middle of the winter, I had to shovel the hay across. I got back in the car. I went down, we had this big culvert that was filled with water. I had to get out of the car, I walked through the culvert, it came up to my knees, I thought I can probably just get through this. I drove through this and I got there. And this was a patient of Steve Mendick's in Tumut, and he'd gone away and playing bridge. And he said to me, this woman, John, she's having a third kid, she should be okay. She's been to the specialist and everything's right. And I walked into the room and I saw this woman with about a 15-pound baby about to come out, and I thought, we're going to have problems here. So I did an examination, the baby's fetal hearts went down, she was in deep transverse arrest, there was no opportunity for caesarean section or anything else. We only had Neville Barnes forceps. I put on one, I rotated the head, I slapped on the other forceps, I started pulling and weren't making much headway. I put one foot on the end of the bed, still didn't make much headway. I put both feet on the end of the bed and leaned back on the forceps, and all of a sudden this head came out. I fell on my backside, forceps fell across the room, and I thought, right, next thing that's going to go wrong is the shoulders. So we did the shoulder dystocia bit and got that out. Finally pulled the baby out, baby started crying. I thought, fantastic, thank God for that. Put the baby on the mother's chest and she said, I hope what happened last time doesn't happen again. 2 litres of blood on the floor later, retained placenta, we had to handle all that sort of stuff and, fixed it all up. I finally got home after sewing up the 3rd-degree tear, and this woman came in 18 years later and saw me in the street and said, do you remember me? So finally, I've already mentioned Virginia, but I really have to take it one step further. True love is about patience, it's about kindness, it's about forbearance, it's about constancy. It's about doing things that you probably don't want to do, but you do it because you know that it's going to be good for the future. It's about being slow to anger and quick to heal. It's about looking after children. It's about taking on a huge responsibility. I believe I've been really blessed with not just the friends that I've met in the rural doctors movement, but having someone that really has kept me afloat for the last 35 years. Finally, very finally, thank you to Peter Graham. This award, the Cohuna Award for Peter and his family, is really about the crop of rural doctors that we have out there practicing generalist medicine. It's about the rural communities. More than that, I hope it will be an inspiration in the future for the next generations of things for a long time to come, and thank you very much. I can talk for another 20 minutes if you want me to. Thank you. Thank you very much. Oh, I forgot to tell you, when Lucy rang me on a Sunday afternoon, I just got off the plane from Italy. I was having a sleep because I was jet lagged. And the phones in our place don't work very well, so I had to go to the front veranda. And I didn't have my shoes on, I didn't have my shirt on. I won't tell you what else I didn't have on. But I'm sitting there and Lucy's talking to me about the conference, and I'm thinking, what's all this about? And there's this red-bellied black snake that sort of comes across the... I'm thinking, what do I do here? There's this red-bellied black snake, where's the shovel? And I didn't want to lose Lucy on the phone because it was obviously something important, but, we got the message eventually. Thank you very, very much.